So, welcome to another FitPro podcast series. In this podcast, we meet Jeremy Strom, the co-founder and head of education at Join NIMBL and the NIMBL Nation, who is going to talk to us today about the application of percussion tools and how to make the most of percussion application to help your clients and improve your business. So, Jeremy, thanks for talking to us today. Give us a little insight and a little bit of background about yourself, who you are as a fitness professional.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Aaron. We're very grateful and honored to be here. And so again, Jeremy Strom, I've been very blessed in my career. Like most, I started out as an athlete, moved into the coaching realm, and then, went to the private coaching sector. From there, was recruited into sort of the general population where I ran clubs as a director of fitness. Was recruited by the commercial fitness company, FreeMotion Fitness. So the dual cable cross is probably our most famous piece, around the world, or the incline trainer, as you see here behind me. So as the director of education and business development, I was very blessed. I've traveled all over the world, presented and worked with and for, fitness professionals all over, both on functional training, on vibration training, which really is sort of the foundation of, where and why we're introducing more acute percussion and vibration today. And I always sort of been entrepreneurial. The opportunity to, create a company and a platform where we can use technology, not as, oh, this is the greatest thing ever and it's all you need, but as an integrated piece into performance and recovery. And that's really what we are at NIMBL Nation, is a performance and recovery, an integrated company. So been very blessed, work with, obviously the best professionals like yourself, Aaron. And now we're just really stoked to sort of push forward this new platform.
Cool, man. Cool. So percussion has become hugely popular, right? It's a huge health trend with PTs, but also more importantly, straight to consumer level as well. Many people have got their hands on that percussion tool because, we all want to get home at the end of a hard day and feel good and feel a bit more pampered and just relax and shake off the day, right? And often it's a lot easier to do so than getting on the floor and grinding up and down on a foam roller. That's the way, people, I think, kind of see it, right? But what else is missing from that very stereotypical view? And how can percussion be better used, in your opinion? How can we get more value?
Yeah, so you bring a good comparison or example in regards to foam rolling, and we get this question all the time: is first of all, what are the differences, and why is percussion better or not better? And I really, is it better or not better? In my mind, there's a few things that make this more accessible. To your point, Aaron, you get done with your day, you're gonna sit on the couch, you're gonna watch the tube, and now you can use percussion. You can hit your legs, you can hit your upper body, and it's much simpler than getting down on the floor, right? It's the other part I think that's very interesting and something that we need to expand our research on is sort of the pain inhibition components that percussion provides. So most of us been on a foam roller, and you're rolling, and I'll use the calves as that's probably the general place people go to. And you're rolling, and all of a sudden you hit that sticky spot and it lights you up. You start to sweat, right? It's really painful. Yeah. So you offload. The great part about vibration and percussion specifically is that gate theory, that the brain's response to external stress or external pain or danger, vibration and percussion oftentimes sort of shut that down, because the brain's more concerned about that vibration versus the pain that the vibration is causing. So It really has to your point about feeling good, it really has sort of this general sense of well-being once you're done utilizing it. So I think in moving forward, I think there are a lot of areas that are really interesting, and certainly here at NIMBL, that we're pushing forward. there are a lot of other companies pushing great things forward as well. So I think as a whole, percussion, it's not new. You said it, it's very popular right now, both maybe more so in the consumer end than in the fitness professional end. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of us fitness professionals, you know, those of us who are early adopters, obviously we're jumping on every new thing and how can that help me as a professional, both for myself, you know, as I'm training people all day long, but for our clients, and how can they feel better and how can they feel like we provided a broader service. So I think there are a lot of areas that percussion, both from a physical or a physiological standpoint, as well as us as, you know, business fitness professionals.
Okay. So yeah, so let's talk about that a little more then. Like, you know, I guess like we said, there's a lot of people taking it on consumer level. The personal trainers, the early adopters are certainly beginning to take it on, but you know, there really isn't that much information, I guess, out there at the moment, which is why the general masses haven't are still yet to hugely adopt the tool, is because, okay, how do I use it, right? So for me, when I got my hands on percussion tools to begin with, it was like, oh yeah, this kind of feels good, but I didn't really know what I was doing, what setting I was on, all that sort of thing. So is there really a need for stronger education, do you think, in order to bring this into a more of a smart personal training spectrum?
Absolutely. And you know, as being in education my whole life, and obviously running education here at NIMBL, I think what's very important is that we know what we know and we accept what we don't know today, right? So from a broad sense of education, the research body out there is really driven by the platforms, right? By vibrational platforms, or what they call whole body vibration. However, a lot of that research is gleaned in our application of acute percussion, which, you know, the Express is. And I think from a broad sense of education, absolutely, the speeds, the attachment heads, the time under percussion, all those things have a distinct effect on skeletal tissue. So I think it's very important that we understand a foundation, certainly in the beginning. And then as the more of us understand that foundation, then we can expand on sort of the nitty gritty, the nuts and bolts, right? The inner workings of how to really utilize percussion to make a difference in the human body.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you know, the more I've learned through education sources such as with you guys, is that I've started to be able to then dive deeper and actually begin to create my own, you know, strategies with percussion therapy. And actually, you know what, now I feel like it's actually making a difference, rather than, it just kind of feels good and it's a bit of a self-massage, but you know, I'll do it with, and I might do it with my client because it gives you that care factor. But actually now I'm starting to go, okay, well, if I apply this with a certain movement at a certain point in my, you know, my session or what have you, then it really does begin to make much more a valuable difference, right? And I think that just has come around with a lot of us beginning to play with it and starting to see some of those benefits. And like you say, taking, you know, that global view of the vibration platform, if you like, and bringing it to a more localized vibration or percussion. So, okay, so I tell you what, the best way to let's dive into this. And what I'd love you to do, you've got your percussion tool with you there, right? The NIMBL. What I'd love you to do is talk us through a little bit about the architecture of the tool and give us some of those basic premises. Give us some of those examples if you can, and let's talk about like heads and speeds and stuff. If that's okay.
Absolutely, great. Yeah. So, you know, so percussion for the sake of percussion and vibration, even in the platform's sense, right? There are essentially three things that cause tissue response. So there's the speed, and that's how fast the attachment head moves back and forth. Wow. There's the distance that attachment head moves back and forth, which is called the amplitude. Okay. And then there's the direction of percussion. So am I going at an angle? Am I going directly on top? So those three areas really are the driving force to allow the brain to respond to the external stress of percussion. And as we dig deeper into the speeds, into the amplitudes, and certainly into the attachment heads, which then would support at what angle we provide percussion to tissue, that's where we really can begin to create a system of use. To your point, Aaron, initially, I think most people get it. And certainly in the US, I don't know about in the UK, but certainly in the US, you know, if one speed is good, then faster, harder, bigger, you know, more deep, right? Penetration is better.
Yeah.
It's actually the opposite with percussion. Right. Really less is more. So if we look at speeds for the sake of speeds.
Yeah.
So we go through 20, 30, 40, and 50 hertz with the NIMBL Express. And hertz are how fast it's moving per second, right? So it's moving very fast. So that speed then correlates to a tissue response. So in our lower speeds, our 20, 30, or our first and second speed on the Express, that's going to be more of a contractile response to tissue. So that's going to be our pre-workout stuff or our pre-activity, or just we're trying to drive more blood flow, right? We want to increase our muscle temperature, and we want to increase blood flow through the joints that we're going to be moving in whatever our activity is. So that would be the lower speeds. The higher speeds then would be more for our post or our recovery session.
Right.
And here's why. So the speeds combined with the amplitude create what's called a sinusoidal wave. So that's a wave force that is penetrating through tissue. The slower speeds, the larger the wave face, or the higher the peaks, the lower the valleys. The larger the wave face, the greater contraction of muscle tissue. The brain is able to contract and release that muscle in order to dampen that percussion and control it such that it doesn't cause the skeleton, the brain, or wherever you're using it damage or pain, right? So that's this sinusoidal wave. So these lower speeds are bigger wave faces. Then as we get higher, those wave faces begin to get smaller. So it's this more penetrative, right? So we're essentially now going to break up some of that tissue. We're going to allow that the tissue is not contracting and releasing to a high degree, but now we're working on relayering. So if these are fibers, we're working on relayering these fibers such that the communication and the function of that area improves or increases.
Right.
So speeds are very important. So we're going to use those slower speeds for our pre-work, and we're going to use the higher speeds for our post-work. Now, the amplitude is very important, and amplitude has a lot to do with the depth of percussion.
Yeah.
So as I said, here in the USA, right, what people feel like they want is just to bury this thing in their bodies and hit bone.
Yeah.
But the reality is potentially that could be going against what our cause is, right? Could be going against of what the goal of using percussion is. So the amplitude on the Express is 13 millimeters. Now, in comparison, a vibration platform typically would be like a 2 to 4 millimeter movement. Okay, right. So this is very large in comparison to a whole body vibration platform. The reason is because acutely now we can affect more tissue in a certain area, where if you just stand on a platform or if you lay down on a platform, you're really causing a skeletal response, where here now we're causing more of a tissue response. So our amplitude, we wanted it high enough that we can get deep based on our attachment heads, which I'll talk about in a minute, but also not so big that it just is beating you up, like you're in front of Tyson Fury. Yeah, that's not our experience. Our experience is this should feel good, even though it's creating some pain. It should feel good. So speeds are for contractile properties. Amplitude is really for depth properties. And then finally that direction. And in the direction, I'm going to talk about the attachment heads that we use. So typically at NIMBL, our plate, or this flat round, and you know, a lot of the percussion tools have a lot of the same attachments, right?
Sure.
So if you think about the surface area, that's probably the one of the key factors that will allow you to determine, okay, what head should I use and when? So larger surface areas are going to be more superficial. So that's going to really just be skin, first layers of fascia. Then as we get to less surface area, like the ball or like the point or the Y, that's going to get more, that's going to be deeper, right? That's going to be more acute, but we're going to get deeper into that tissue, into the muscle, potentially into that connective tissue as well. So if you look at depth and attachments, we want to determine, okay, first of all, is this pre or post? So if it's pre or post or intra, then we're going to say, okay, I want to activate or I want to release or recover. Do I want to prime, prepare the brain for movement? Or do I want to break up fibrotic tissue, such as a specific trigger point area? So when we look at attachment heads, the flat round, this is going to be more in the beginning of activity. This is going to be more for your priming, right? I'm going to run this over my body or over the areas that I'm going to work in that session, just to connect the brain, because the brain's first response is, oh my gosh, what is that external stress and how do I control it?
Okay.
So it magnifies this communication, right? That neural tissue or neuromuscular facilitation or communication. It magnifies it because the brain actually perceives vibration or percussion as the most important external stress there is, even over like a hot or cold sensation. So that would be our flat. When we're getting into the ball, now the ball is going to be really for activation. So this is where I'm going to use this to, if I'm getting ready to do, let's just use a push-up for simple example, right?
Sure.
And I want to make sure that I hit my chest, my triceps as some primary movers, but I also want to get some of those secondaries, right? I want to make sure that my delts are activated. I want to make sure that my flexors are activated, that my glutes are activated. So I have that strong trunk connection or core connection. So then I would use the ball, because that's going to go a little bit deeper, but it's not going to go so deep and so acute that now I'm more localized to a specific tissue region. This is going to be a broader area. So if I'm working through my pecs or my chest, I know that in a 45, 60 second session that my pecs, my anterior delt is going to be activated, is going to be turned on, ready to go. Then as you're finished, and now we're going into more of a recovery, I'm going to use the plate akin to a foam roller, because I'm getting a broader area. I'm doing nice, slow, easy strokes, and then I can pay attention to those adhesions or those trigger points. If I hit some of those trigger points, now I'm going to use these more acute tips, such as the Y or the point. That's going to allow me to be a little bit more localized, break up some of that fibrotic tissue, and cause release, thus feeling better, as you said, at the end of the day, right? Feeling better when you're finished with your session. So that's a simple overview. Speeds, certainly low speeds for pre, faster speeds for post. Our amplitude is driven for depth, and then we use our attachments. Flat is going to be more superficial, and then the less surface space is going to increase your depth into that tissue.
That's fantastic. I mean, look, that automatically, there's a couple of key takeaways that someone that first gets hold of a percussion instrument percussion tool would kind of go, oh, that's why I would do that. And one of the big things that I learned from you guys straight away was actually that if you want to prime a muscle and get something excited, you need to go slower. And we always think faster is excitement, right? So I would always go like get it on its highest setting, but actually all I was doing was relaxing my muscle pre-workout, which isn't the best thing to do. And then after a workout, yeah, then I'm there kind of, oh, I need to slow it down now. And then I was putting it under more tension. I've just done a workout, so I don't need more. So that's really great that you've cleared that up straight away. And the same would go with the heads. It's great to now understand that, you know, if you just think about, all you need to think about is surface area, right? And the larger the surface area, the more superficial, the smaller the surface area, the deeper it goes. And then you can really start to think about, which one should I use at the right time? And I think it's really important, like you say, depth is essentially the amplitude, or how hard we apply it. And we really shouldn't be applying it that hard. We're looking for a smart, innate response, not an outright kind of conscious. It's subconscious.
That's right.
Just like when you're on a platform, it's a subconscious physical response. So we don't need to go after something that physically we have to put effort into.
Yeah. So we always recommend the amount of pressure needed is really just the weight of the NIMBL. That's really all you need. Now, in some cases, the more dense tissue, the gluteals or in the quadriceps, right? Or if you're very overdeveloped in certain areas, you certainly could add more pressure than that.
Yeah.
But let pain be your guidance, and because you're certainly right, Aaron. Less is more here.
Yeah.
Both in time and in pressure. And the other thing, I think everybody thinks, the faster, the more aggressive. But the truth is, let your brain do what it does best, and that is control how the skeletal tissue responds, right? So let's use this as a hack, because it's going to hack the pain sensor of your brain. But also, let's not beat up your muscle or beat up your fascia or your skin or, you know, any tissue that you're percussing. Absolutely.
I think, you know, I don't want to go too much depth with this now, because I think this is opening Pandora's box as such. Is the idea of movement integrated with percussion, right? That's where the really smart stuff happens, isn't it?
100%. Yes. And yeah, so and even in your education, in your videos, Aaron, in regards to running, you know, we really feel like this can be a great tool static. So you can, you know, sit on the couch, you're watching the tube, and I'm running it up and down. That's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But really, when we talk about that neural tissue facilitation or movement patterns, right? That's really where percussion sort of grows, and we have the opportunity to grow into and learn more about how to integrate percussion into movement, both from a activation standpoint. So like I'm a running coach. My athletes use percussion before even their dynamics. So this is the first thing they do, and it's the last thing they do. And even in their movement. So a lot of times, you know, with runners, they have a hard time getting into their glutes. So we do hip extension work while percussing.
Yeah.
To now, the brain says, oh my gosh, what's happening there? So I'm going to connect. I always say the brain is like Wi-Fi. Most of us run around at 3G Wi-Fi. You attach percussion to your body, and now the brain is 5G Wi-Fi because it wants to control. So integrated percussion with movement really is a fun and new opportunity for us. And it takes minds like yours and fit professionals around the world, these early adopters, to start playing. And then we sort of get this anecdotal initially. There's always that relationship between what is research and what is real, right? Because those of us in the gym, on the street, in the field, on the pitch, we see what's happening every day.
Yeah. I think there's going to be room, and I think there's going to be scope for research in the future. And like you say, you've gleaned a lot of that research from stuff that has already been done with vibration, just in a different way. I think we can automatically assume that they're going to be the same. And we already know that vibration with movement is a great tool to helping performance and health. So why would it not be the same with a more localized tool? And I think it's then when you actually, like you say, when you start you do the research. You do the research by exploring it yourself. Go try it.
Yeah.
Go,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, next time, you know, and I say this to the fitness, our community now, is next time you grab your percussion gun, like rather than just sitting on the sofa doing it, why not put yourself in a simple kind of, you know, mobility stretch? So while you're going through some gentle, maybe it's a hamstring and you're standing up and you're just going through a gentle hamstring stretch. And whilst you're going that, just utilize your tool on that local area, that i.e. the hamstring or the hip, or, you know, and actually see what the difference is in the benefit, right? And maybe do one side passive and one side active and see the difference.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, do one with and one without, and you'll notice immediately it's an absolute immediate response, which is really great. Sort of moving to, you know, to then implementing or integrating with our clients. You know, that's what's really nice about it, is they feel and they see and they experience that immediate change or immediate response, which then you're the superhero, right? Now they're taking out, you know, 100 more quid to give you, because thank you so much for introducing percussion into our session. So 100%. And just on that, you know, when you're doing movement, you want to make sure that don't use those more acute. Don't use the point.
Yeah.
Make sure you use the plate or the ball, because we really want to affect a broader area.
And we're already opening up the tissue, right? So we don't need to get deep in there because you're already exposing more of it.
Correct.
So go right. That's a good point. So go larger surface, nice and light again, just nice and light. You know, brushing your teeth.
Perfect.
Just,
float on top.
Yeah.
Float on top. Perfect.
Yeah, it's brushing rather than flossing, right? It's,
yeah, it's good. That's perfect.
You know, cool, man. So, you know, we've already touched on that. It's got to be great for your business to have to utilize percussion as well. And I guess, you know, I won't even load the question. I'm just going to say it. Like I've done it where I've rented out my gun. Right.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, right. To your clients, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I rented it out, and, you know, just, it was a little bit of extra add-on for my session. And there will be some clients where you may just think, well, look, my clients already pay good money and hard-earned money, so you know what, I'm just gonna allow them to take it away. But that's either way you do it, whether you charge it or it's part of the service that you're offering. It's got to be better business sense, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's two layers there. One is absolutely you as a fitness professional looking outside of more of the traditional, okay, we're going to stretch, right? Or okay, we're going to warm up, but you're looking outside of that. So I think clients automatically feel that greater or broader sense of trust if you're bringing in new tools and new opportunities for their success. So I think that's the first layer. And then the second layer is, you know, from a business standpoint, and this is really important. I mean, it's not the greatest end all be all tool that you're ever going to put in your toolbox, right? And it is a very, very powerful tool when applied appropriately to really take your clients to another level that they couldn't, simply because the brain is going to control tissue based on where your clients are. Percussion is that sort of biohack tool that allows for a broader range of motion or a greater contraction level. So I think from a business standpoint, FitPro's implementing percussion into their sessions only improves and increases that trust and that relationship with their clients, which then obviously, you know, they continue, retention is higher, and all those things that we talk about from a business standpoint. So yeah, I think it's very powerful. But to your point, you know, a lot of people are buying and reselling, you know, because their clients want the tools. So there are lots of opportunities. I think from a purely financial standpoint, the percussion makes a lot of sense in our businesses.
Sure. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's a really great point. And we've talked a lot about the fitness community, but I do want to touch on as well. There's another side to it, another community that I'd like to just not go too deep with today, but just to briefly touch on, is that therapist community, right?
Yeah.
Because here in the UK, there is some skepticism around percussion therapy or the percussion tool in use of therapy, or potentially, why we're using this. It's, where do you think the skepticism comes from? Why do you think it's there at the moment?
Well, I think what's interesting, from a physio standpoint, I mean, physios from a palpation, right? Their hands are on you. They're integrating your tissue. Their fingers into your tissue. They're literally moving tissue and they're feeling tissue. So I think there's two areas. One is the body of research that needs to be distributed as fast as we can. On joinnimble.com, we have a resource center. There's a great body of research there that is percussion specific, as well as some of the other whole body vibration stuff. So I think education and research and them understanding that there is valuable peer-reviewed high-level research to support the tissue effects that percussion provides. The second thing is I think some of the skepticism is that, is somehow this going to replace me? And will then a client just buy a percussion tool and not come to me? And that's why I've said it, I think 2 or 3 times. This doesn't replace anything. It's an add-on, right? And from a physio standpoint, from a therapist standpoint, I think the great add-on for them is this is going to improve muscle temperature and blood flow faster than some of the other ways that they would do it. And particularly in a injure or post-op situation where range of motion might be the issue and they don't have range of motion. Now I can use percussion all around the knee on the muscle tissue and cause blood flow, right? And increase that muscle temperature. So now I'm able to maybe get a little greater range of motion. So I think for the physio world, for the therapist world, this really is a great initial add-on. Similar to what they would use like TENS for, right? Like an E-stim or electricity. The distinction is there's a pain inhibitor here that offers them an improved or increased opportunity now to hack the brain and get greater range of motion, or bring more function to the tissue or area that they're using. So I think those are the two things. One, we need to get the research in their hands, and two, just to understand this is not a replacement. It never will be. It never should be. But it's a great add-on tool to make their jobs easier.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, I'm going to see a physio tomorrow about a little neck issue, a long-standing thing. It's no big deal. But, I'm still going to go see the physio rather than thinking that I can just get at it and just pummel my neck. It just doesn't work like that. And I think, when I think there is a responsibility that we as fitness professionals know where our scope of practice starts and finishes. And I think, you guys certainly with your education platform kind of bring that and give that understanding and give us that construct of where we start and end with percussion therapy. And I think then there'll be less skepticism when the personal trainer as well needs to be honest with themselves and say, I've got this foundation of support around me and around my clients. I've got a physio that I refer my clients to. I've got a massage therapist and an osteo, so that, and a food coach, et cetera, so that, I know where I start and end. And I think there's that responsibility that if we engage and we talk about that through education and through the right messaging, I think then the therapist will feel less kind of out of joint, if you like. So excuse the pun,
No, no, I agree. I agree 100%. The scope of work for a fitness professional versus a physio are very different. And the sooner, and it's been a battle for as long as we both existed, right? Yeah. The sooner that we integrate and work with one another, the greater success for our clients. So you hit it perfectly. And so I think the other part, with NIMBL is we recruit and we have physical therapists on our team. So it's not me giving a physio, right? It's not me giving that. It's a physio providing that education. And I think that's the distinction. Even for me, as I've done, I've done research on vibration for the last 12 years. I go to a physio, right? I'm going to give it to a physio. I don't know what's going on inside my body. If I heard something and it's not obvious stuff, absolutely going to trust the professionals that that's what they do. So you hit it. Make sure we know what we do. Trust them that they know what they're doing. And if we can connect, obviously our clients win, and which is the goal.
And then it'll be a great situation, right, where the physio was talking to the fitness professional, and then we're then better understanding when to use the tool, aren't we?
Absolutely.
just as what I need to go to the physio tomorrow, it's not just about the hands-on, it's about them being able to tell me what's going on as a fitness professional, so that then I can go away and work on myself as well, because if they give me that better understanding, and that's kind of what we need to be doing, is working with one another, so that then I know that actually if I use the right attachment on the right settings for the right amount of time at the right depth, now I'm going to be doing my client a great service alongside what they're getting with their physiotherapist, and the client's health and performance is going to go through the roof.
Absolutely. And that's the point. That's the goal, is their health and performance goes through the roof, right? So it's not us being the superstar, or percussion being the superstar, or even the physio, right? But if we put all that stuff together and all that knowledge, then the client wins. And then, as an industry, we all rise up, right? We all get better. And I think that's really, when my partner, Josh, when we started, that's really what it was about. How do we help people feel better? And let's get the best educators and physios around, get them together, give them education, give them research, and then let them provide, here's how you use percussion to feel better, to move better, and ultimately to live better in your everyday life.
Perfect. That's such a strong message, I think, to finish us today. So where can we find out more, Jeremy? Where can we go to find out more about you, your team, and your education? Because I think there's a need for that education.
Yeah, so www.joinnimble.com, and NIMBL is NIMBL, there's no E. So joinnimble.com, and there's resource centers in there, both with the research paper. There's also our certification is housed there, so you can go on and get our certification, as well as there's 50 plus short form 3 to 5 minute videos in support of how to use percussion in varying degrees and various movements. So there's a lot of support there at joinnimble.com. And then, you have full access to us. So if you want something specific or need something specific, please reach out. We're here for you. We want to be that company that's super easy to work with. So absolutely, check it out.
We can find you social media, right? Join NIMBL.
Yep, join NIMBL, and then or hashtag NIMBL Nation.
Cool, man. Yeah. So and obviously, if people want to, purchase NIMBL in the UK, where do we go? Yeah.
So go to www.wkgsports.com.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yep.
Fantastic.
wkgsports.com. They'll take great care of you.
Fantastic. I mean, that's great. And it's been a great introduction, a proper introduction to, I think, percussion tools that has been needed in the industry. So I'm glad we got to talk about this today and share this with our community. So guys, from me, Coach Az, it's been another really informative podcast. You can also follow me and I'll be obviously doing some stuff with you guys in the near future as well. So keep abreast of that at Coach Azza as well. Make sure you check out at FitPro Limited on Instagram. Check us out on the FitPro blog. And we look forward to sharing another great podcast with all you guys very soon.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Cheers. Have a wonderful rest of your week.